You feel where to sit?
Feels where to sit. I just want to make.
Does he have anything hands-free?
On.
Okay. If I could ask everyone to take their seat, please. Before we get started, just a couple housekeeping notes. Please make sure your phones are turned to silent.
I did. You did.
The doors will remain open throughout the course of the evening. If you need to use the restroom, they are right outside the door and to the right. Karen Wyckoff in the back, you'll see her waving her hand. If you have any questions or need anything, you can flag one of us down. We'll be glad to walk around and help, okay? So my name is Kelly Gilbert. I am the Executive Director of the Milford Miami Township Chamber of Commerce. We want to thank you all for being here this evening for our Candidates Forum. We also want to thank the League of Women Voters. The Chamber and the League have partnered very long time for candidate forums and voter education, so we are very, very thankful that they are here. Our volunteers for this evening are Mara Gray, Leslie Jacobs, Christine Cornelius, Marcia Oganoski. Oh, I was so close. And our moderator for this evening will be Miss Cindy Wright. So before we get started and make additional introductions, I'd ask you all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this point, I will turn it over to Cindy, and she will walk through the process for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here, and we are very grateful to the Milford Miami Township Chamber for hosting the event this evening. Welcome, candidates. We're very glad you're here as well, and we're excited to have about an hour and a half of the opportunity to hear from you. So I'd like to just walk through the ground rules that all of the candidates have read in advance and acknowledged. There are no substitutes or stand-ins for the candidates, so you all are really who you say you are. Yeah, good. There are no props at their stations there. In order to preserve the nonpartisan atmosphere during the forum, no campaign banners, signs, or literature handouts are allowed inside of this venue. If there is anything you wanted to leave outside, you can certainly do so outside of the venue. Each candidate will give a 3-minute opening statement, and the selection of the order of the presentation will be alphabetical. After the opening statements are completed, then as we are collecting, we've got a stack already of questions from the audience. We'll begin a question time, and those two will be rotated alphabetically. So everyone gets the chance to go first. You will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. There will not be a time for rebuttal. These two lovely ladies here are our timekeepers, and why don't you show them the warning signs?
Stop.
There we go. So they're tough. They're a tough group. So hey, we'll stay with those 30-second, 1 minute, and stop signs. It is my job to enforce the ground rules and to make sure that we have order. I think that we're going to have a lovely evening tonight. And at this time, we are going to begin the introductions. And we'll start, as we said, alphabetically. And we'll start with you, Miss Amy Brewer.
Thank you, Cindy. I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Claremont County, as well as the Milford Miami Township Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this very important event this evening. Thank you for your time and your dedication to educating voters. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Amy Brewer. I'm a lifelong resident of Milford. I graduated from Milford High School and the University of Cincinnati. I am married to Ralph Alardo Jr. We have 4 children between us, Olivia, Marissa, Max, and Ava. I'm the Director of Operations for a small family-owned business in Batavia. I have owned my own business in the past, so I do know what it's like to be a small business owner. I have always had a love for community and politics. As a young woman working in litigation paralegal in Batavia, I became involved in politics and assisted several candidates in countywide races. After campaigning for 3 other individuals, I decided that I was tired of being the bridesmaid and never the bride. So I decided to run my own campaign. I ran my first campaign and was elected in 2005. That was 12 years ago. My commitment to the community is as strong now as it was the first time that I ran in 2005. It is true that I said I was not going to run again. However, Leonard's out there laughing at me. Several people, friends, staff, colleagues strongly encouraged me to stay on for 1 more term. I gave it a lot of thought. After all, I'm finally an empty nester. My husband works 24 hours every 3rd day, and for once in my life, I probably have more time on my hands than I ever had. My desire to serve had not wavered, so it really wasn't a hard decision. I did want to run again. 2016 and 2017 have been a year of personnel transitions for the city. We have a new city manager, a new public works director, a new administrative secretary, and a new finance director. While it would appear that we have inexperienced staff with all of those changes, the truth is we have a plethora of talented, creative, experienced employees. I believe that my experience that I have gained these 12 years on council and my skill set is beneficial to the staff and the residents as well. But there is no doubt that the most talked about issue in Milford right now is what to do with Milford, Maine. We have had several public hearings, conducted an online survey, and it is very clear that the majority of residents are opposed to any form of development, but would support some type of green space or park. Council has listened to the residents and is in the process of obtaining SOQs from engineers to maximize the potential for that space. I firmly believe that we only have 1 chance to get it right with that property. We need to take our time and consider all of our options. We must ensure that Milford is as business-friendly as possible. Our staff does an excellent job making sure it's as easy as possible for new businesses to open and expand. It's important that we make sure our taxes and fees remain low while also continuing to provide quality city services. As our city grows, we must look at ways to enhance the quality of life for all of our residents and ensure Milford is on the top of the list for businesses that are looking to relocate. Thank you for your time. I look forward to your questions this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. Ms. Chamberlain, your introduction.
Good evening. My name is Kim Chamberlain, and I would like to welcome you all here this evening and thank the Milford-Miami Township Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Thank you to those present, and thank you also for those tuning in online and for sharing your precious resource of time with us and getting to know all of the candidates better. My husband, Richard, and I moved to Milford 21 years ago with our 2 children, Josh and Sammy. We were looking for a neighborhood with sidewalks and community, a place that we would call home and raise our family. Since 1996, I have been actively involved in our city. I have served and held leadership roles in the school district, local church community, and a variety of local regional nonprofits. Currently, I am on the board of directors for the Milford-Miami Township Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Historic Milford Association and a Claremont County Master Gardener and active in my church. I enjoy working with others in committee settings, facilitating groups, listening, brainstorming ideas, and teaching. I believe in teamwork where everyone is encouraged to use his or her talents. Up until 2009, I was a full-time mom and I worked part-time at a couple of local businesses, Curves and the Bridge Cafe. This time allowed me to foster many relationships within the community and engage in volunteer service opportunities. In 2009, I started my personal gardener, and I'm proud to say that is still my job today. I believe in this city and its residents and its businesses, and I want to see it continue to thrive and grow without losing its hometown feel. I believe in honest, open communication, being authentic and transparent. I believe we have a wealth of talented voices here in our city that have ideas and creative solutions to make this happen. 3 important issues to me are economic development, citizen involvement, and beautiful, accessible spaces. As I have had the privilege to engage with fellow community members, I have found these topics are important to them too. I would like to give residents, business and property owners, all city employees, a platform for their voices to be heard. Collectively, we can come together and agree on what is best for the greater good. I believe this is how we build community together. I am running for city council because I am dedicated to this community, and I look forward to serving all of its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, your introduction.
Okay, thank you. Again, also, thanks to all of you for attending tonight, and thanks to the League of Women Voters and the Chamber for hosting this event. My name is Lisa Evans, and I have lived in this city for 28 years. I've been very fortunate to raise my family here. My family owns a business in the community, and I feel it's important to give back. I volunteer for many city events through the Chamber of Commerce, such as Frontier Days and Street Eats. I also help out at city-sponsored events, such as the Easter egg hunt, movie nights, and the Fall Festival. I used to serve on the Firemen's Auxiliary when it was active, and I still assist the department whenever I can. I also participated in the Milford Citizens Police Academy. I serve as the president of the St. Andrew St. Vincent de Paul Society, which helps many local families with food, rent, and utility bills. It's wonderful to live in an area where there is still a strong sense of community. I've been serving on council for 6 years. I've enjoyed my work and hope to continue to serve the Milford community. Being on council and representing our city is an honor. I take the position very seriously and try to always make the right choice for Milford and all of its residents. I feel part of my responsibility is making sure we have strong leaders throughout the city. We have great leadership in City Manager Michael Doss, Fire Chief Mark Baird, and Police Chief Jamie Mills. The city has made progress over the past 6 years, and I want to continue that progress. I serve on the Community Development and Administrative Services Committees, as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals. Through the Community Development Committee, we have made progress in our parks, such as the newly renovated Memorial Park, by taking advantage of grant money, and improved city entrances with islands, banners, and beautiful landscaping. Through administrative services, we have supported and approved several new business incentive plans to bring new businesses to Milford and help current businesses make necessary improvements. If re-elected, I hope to continue the progress we're making in our parks by finishing Riverside Park and pursuing new ideas at Milford, Maine. I also want to continue to attract and maintain wonderful businesses to our growing community in all areas of town. We've been fortunate with all the state funding cuts over the past few years to stay financially responsible, and I want to make sure we continue on that path. We found creative ways to save money without compromising city services. A final goal during the next 4 years is to improve transparency and communication. It's important to be open and honest in all city decisions. Communicating meeting dates, times, and conversations is key. We need to make sure we're reaching residents of all ages through all various types of media. I appreciate the trust and support you've given me over the past 6 years and hope to continue to provide you with the dedication to always doing the right thing for Milford. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, your introduction.
Thank you. My name's Miles Miller, and as everybody else has done, I will also thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Milford-Miami Township Chamber of Commerce for hosting this evening's event. I was also born and raised here in Milford. I graduated from Milford High School in 2001. I went on to attain an associate's degree from the University of Cincinnati and a bachelor's degree from Eastern Kentucky University. I did move away briefly while I was married, but I did stay connected to the city of Milford through my work with the Milford Fire Department. I'm now happy to say that I've moved back and I'm here to stay. I have 2 daughters, Hannah and Lizzie, and they are my world. They grew up in a larger community, and through our time here spent now at Milford, they've really come to enjoy our hometown feel that we have here, and that's probably one of my biggest drives. We often ride our bikes or we'll walk downtown. They love eating at the small restaurants, shopping at the local shops, and of course we're always having ice cream or some kind of sweets down there because there's plenty of cupcakes and fudge. And we love our parks. You know, we walk to Garfield Park, we go to Riverside Park, and you know they're great. So as I said, you know, my daughters are my biggest drive to be on Milford Council. I want them to grow up here. I want them to have the same passion that I have for this city. And it would be, my biggest dream would be to have them grow their families here as well. My grandparents grew up around here. My parents have grown up around here. I just want that to continue. Another passion of mine is public safety. As I said, I'm a member of the fire department. I started my fire service career at the age of 14, and almost immediately I had a passion for public safety as well as public service. I would like to extend my passion onto being a member of council. My background in public safety, I think, would be instrumental in extending in community developments and other projects. I also have a desire for better communication. I think as I was going around getting my petition signed, a lot of comments I heard from residents were that they feel maybe that they're unheard or maybe uninformed or misinformed, and I'd like to narrow that gap. I'd like to see more open discussions on our issues, maybe promote some more cooperation among council and among our residents. I have leadership experience in my career field, and I think that would benefit communicating with our residents as well as with our community. When I started in the fire service, I was under one of our greatest leaders, and his biggest teaching to me was when you're in public service, it's about the community. It's never about you, but it's always about the community. So I want to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. We'll go ahead and start the questions now, and as I indicated earlier, we will rotate alphabetically. So, Ms. Chamberlain, you will be answering the question first. In your opinion, what are the top 3 issues that the city is facing, and how do you plan to help solve those issues?
Top 3 issues. I would say the top 3 issues would be, as Miles and Lisa has both said, communication, improving our communication with residents and making sure that they are as informed as they want to be informed, and community engagement. So I would really like to see us be able to utilize not only just our Facebook page, but what are other ways that we are going to be able to meet the residents' needs, whether that's sending electronic emails in the newsletter, but with us not having a newspaper reporter that are covering our meetings on a regular basis, our local paper doesn't seem to be reporting on the news as regularly as I think that it should be, as well as updating meeting notices to be a little bit more detailed instead of it just being the 3 bulletin boards. That's the way to advertise the meeting. What are other ways that residents are looking for information to advertise that? So improving of communication, as well as our economic development. A lot of concerns with empty storefronts, and what are we doing with those empty storefronts? And so I know we just had the Comprehension Plan Committee do their presentation, and I would like to look more at that and see what they're recommending, different zoning changes too. And Milford, Maine. So Milford, Maine, I agree with Amy. The community spoke and that they're wanting it to be green space, but I do think that we only have one opportunity to do this and do it right and do it well. And what that looks like, I don't know, but I would like to work with residents and making sure that everybody's voices are heard and moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, do you need me to repeat the question, or?
Nope, I think I know three things. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe in communication is key. Many times I talk to residents and they don't know something happened until after the fact, whether that be a topic at a meeting or even a community event that's going on. So we've tried to put like banners up and things to advertise events, but even like community meetings, a lot of people are not on Facebook, and we can't rely on that. So same thing as Kim said, like a weekly email or weekly like one call, if people want to sign up for that, it'd be nice to get information out. Also, there's several things that the comprehensive plan did come up with, one of them being branding and trying to come up with a common theme and design for our city and kind of advertise who we are and what we are. And I think that's a key thing to start working on, because through that branding can come signage and this uniformity throughout the city. Part of that comprehensive plan was also walkability. We have lots of different neighborhoods in Milford, and some are not connected very well. Coming down Brooklyn Avenue, we need sidewalks. Going out towards Target, we need more sidewalks so people can have access to all the places in our community. And also the parks. Milford, Maine, obviously, like they said, is very key, and we do need to really focus on what's the best thing for Milford, Maine. We had all those nice public meetings, and we have a book of all the public comments, and that's good to go through and start looking at that. And also the trailhead, trying to make sure that we keep those bikers and hikers coming into Milford and spruce up the trailhead and make sure we have signage and things to get them to come to our community and shop and eat and all of those things. So, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I'm good. All right. So I guess I'll kind of reiterate. I had also mentioned communication. I would like to see better communication between our residents and council members. I think we need to be open and honest about what's truly happening. There shouldn't be a reason that a resident isn't aware of an event or a building going up in their backyard. I also want to see some economic growth. Kim had mentioned we have empty storefronts. I think one of the greatest things about Milford is we always have the mom and pop shops, and I'd like to see those, see more of them and have them be successful. I think that says a lot about our city. It's a success for the business, but it's also one for us. And then parks. I have 2 young daughters, so we love the parks. I want to see those, maintained well. I think they're attractive to visitors, and I know they get me downtown, so I'd like to keep building. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Well, I'm last, so I'm going to repeat a lot of what was said because they did touch on a few things. And Lisa and I did have the advantage of sitting through a comprehensive plan meeting. So we do know that one of the number one things that came out of that meeting was gateways, branding, and wayfinding. So that would be definitely one of them. Maine, I've already touched on that in my opening statement. I do agree empty storefronts are an issue that we need to work on and try to get those full as well. I had in my notes here, Brooklyn sidewalks. Brooklyn Avenue needs sidewalks very well. One thing about the communication I'll state is I do think our staff does an excellent job of communicating with our residents. It truly is very difficult to get information out to every single resident to make sure everybody has the same information. So we do our best with, of course, Facebook, posting things online on our website. Meetings of notices are posted in public places as well as here. So it's just one of those things where outside of a one call, I don't know what else. If people are interested, they could certainly approach the city to be contacted for upcoming events. But I do want to stick up for staff and say that we really do make the effort to communicate with the public and make sure that they are contacted for everything. But again, I definitely think that Maine is one of the hot topics this year.
Thank you very much. Ms. Evans, as a city council member, what do you feel will be one of your more difficult or controversial tasks to handle going forward?
Probably because it already has been, is Milford, Maine. We had the controversial 1 a.m. meeting about whether or not to build a development there, and that was a very trying time. And now I think we're on the right path with Milford, Maine, and the green space and all that. But I think it will be a hard decision that comes down to what exactly do we put there? Do we leave it all green? Do we put a stage? Do we put a gazebo? Do we put benches? What do we do? And I think that will be one of the next hard decisions to make.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yes. So I think the hardest thing for me is going to be, I will be very new at this, but I'm excited to do it, and I learn fast, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get dirty. So, bring it on. Milford, Maine, again, everybody's going to say the same thing. That's going to be a huge issue, and I think we're making some great progress with it, and I hope to continue making progress with it. So.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
I would have to agree, it's probably going to be Maine. We're all going to sound redundant here. I mean, I think we've worked through the hurdle of Riverside Park. Everybody who's been following this knows how I feel about Riverside Park. I wanted to wait on what amenities we were going to put in Riverside Park until we knew what we were going to do in Maine. Some work had been done on that, and council succeeded in finding 4 votes to proceed. So I am on board. I'll support council's decision to move forward on that. We've all worked together to try to find what we can do as far as a walking path and a shelter and to make that happen. So that does leave us with what to do with Maine. That will be a sensitive issue to some, and although we're going to do our best, we won't be able to make everybody happy with what we do there.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
Milford, Maine, I think is going to be just because it's been such a hot topic in our community. And I think if we just take our time and really, what is going to be the best way to partner with the community and what is the community looking for. Unfortunately, as I was going around and I was talking to people, a lot of people have kind of given up on coming to council and because they just feel like they're not heard. So again, I really hope that I can bring to the table good communication and bridging that gap with residents and wanting people to get engaged and involved in the community and what's going on. I have a lot of experience with working with groups and enthusiasm, working together and teamwork. So I'm hoping that I can help bridge that gap between residents that don't feel like they can be involved or that they're going to vapor lock if they come to a meeting, that maybe there's some really gifted and talented people that we need to hear from. So I'm hoping that that's something I can bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, we'll start with you.
All right.
All right. How do you feel the mayor and the vice mayor should be selected?
Ooh. The way we do it now, I haven't had an issue. So I think, the residents vote on who, our council, and then the council selects who's gonna be the mayor. And I think that has been working out well for us, and I really don't see a need to change that. I'll continue with that process.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Well, I can argue this both ways. I can see why people want to have a say in who their mayor is and why it should be a public vote. I get that. On the other hand, as a member of 7 members who work together, we have a feel with who the leaders are within the 7 members of us, and we have a better handle on who is more capable to represent the public. And some of it is not just it's not just always likability. Some of it's availability. Some of it's leadership qualities. Some of it's how they engage with others. There's just a lot more into it than just how popular you are. So my fear with a public vote is a popularity vote versus, I think with a council vote, I think more credence is given to where the leaders are emerging and who's going to do the best job representing the city.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I would have to agree. The way that we are operating and allowing council to select the mayor and vice mayor, I think it's the team that is working together. We don't have a strong mayor system, so I believe that council selecting within themselves, it helps. They know the team that they're working with. It also can build camaraderie working together, and just like Amy said, knowing schedules and times.
It's a commitment.
That it would, instead of it being a popular vote, it's the team working together to best select who is going to be that representative for the city.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
I also kind of agree. One thing I guess I hesitate to say is, but I really almost think we shouldn't call it mayor and vice mayor. I mean, our mayor is basically a chairperson. They lead the meetings, run the meetings. We're not a mayor form of government. And the problem with us having a mayor is sometimes people think that the mayor runs the city, which is not true. But I do agree that council should be able to make that decision on who a good leader is and who can run that meeting and who can be available and come to events and be responsible to answering phone calls and responding to the citizens' needs. So I would have to agree, I guess, that the council should make that decision.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer, what is your vision for growth within the city?
What is my vision for growth within the city? My vision for growth is to, I think the city is doing a very good job offering business incentives. And I do think that Michael Doss does an excellent job courting businesses and looking for other opportunities for people to come into our city. I would like to see us continue to work on our infrastructure projects. The better streets we have, the better landscapes we have, the better lighting, water, sewer, that will lure businesses into the community as well. Keeping our taxes low, that will do as well. Community events, those are the kind of things that strengthen the community as a whole, and I do think our city is on target to bring business in as well.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I really believe that Milford is fortunate to have an abundance of economic investment from both large corporations to smaller privately owned businesses. Like Miles was saying, you have to love our smaller mom and pop eclectic stores. These businesses provide jobs and increased revenue. And I would really like for the city to do more partnerships with our local chamber as well as Claremont County Chamber, and what are some different networking ways that we can include and invite other businesses into our storefronts and into our area. I agree, our city incentive, the city offers financial assistance to businesses that will help them correct code violations or improvements to buildings. I think the city did a really great job when thinking outside the box, purchasing the closed gas station down on Main Street, and that provided parking for our city, and then selling it to Ben and Maureen to open up a local grocery store, which also fits a need in that. We have RDI, which is using a local storefront to provide lots of jobs into our community and build. So I really think partnering with different organizations in our city, as well as using different incentives to woo, and all of our infrastructure. Infrastructure isn't sexy, but it has to be done in order for us to have a great foundation.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Excuse me. I think one thing to make sure that we're growing in all areas of Milford, so sometimes because it's a valuable on the river, we focus on the downtown, which has made great growth, but we can't forget about like the 28 corridor and River's Edge and all the other parts of Milford. So making sure that we try to grow all areas of town. There's great business incentives. We just had, last night at council, we had 2 new businesses, Hope Bridge and Little Miami Brewing Company, take advantage of those incentives. And that was a big probably reason that they chose to come to Milford. We also have the incentives for current businesses to get money to fix up their properties, like Kim was saying, put new awnings up or make improvements to their business, excuse me, which is helpful. I think also the buying of properties is very important. There's very limited open land, I guess you could say, in Milford, and so for the city to be able to buy things like the parking lot, to either use it ourselves or to develop it or out to a developer to bring new businesses to town is also key. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Pretty much the theme of the night has been, yes, what they said. So again, I mentioned my daughters again, but, we love the parks, and so I think having parks throughout the city has been great, and that helps us walk from one part to the other, and as we're walking, we pass the other stores and restaurants and things like that. And then the incentives also for the businesses that, you mentioned, Lisa mentioned the 2 businesses that took advantage of those to come into Milford, and I want to continue with the incentives, building our infrastructure, some better roads and sidewalks throughout the city would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kim, we'll start with you again, back to you. Would you be willing to support economic incentives to redevelop properties that are run down or underutilized, like the Milltown Plaza?
Absolutely. If it is something that we have that we are able to use and that fits in the budget, I have not been part of the budget meetings, so I can't necessarily address that exactly how much extra money we have to offer incentives. But I would like to see us offer and woo businesses in by using the spaces that we have and thinking outside the box. So whether it's the shopping center where, the Milltown Plaza.
Milltown Plaza.
Milltown Plaza, as well as some other areas, most definitely.
Right. Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yes, I would also agree with that. I know that before there's been some grants available. Sometimes there's grants available for like blighted areas. So if some of those areas or fall in that range, grants can be used for things like that. But I think also it's important for the city to step in sometimes and buy the property and have some control over what goes there and what redevelopment. Knowing what we need, trying to gear that property towards the right type of development is very important. So I'm all for using funds for that when appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Absolutely. So the city's already purchased property, developed it, improved it, and it's worked out very well for us, I think. I think you would be crazy to not approve of that.
Thank you. And Ms. Brewer?
Can you guess what my answer is going to be? Yes, of course. Yes, I can elaborate and repeat the same thing they said, but the short answer is yes, of course.
All right. Ms. Evans, how would you rebrand Milford?
Okay. Well, I was on the comprehensive plan. We've been talking about this. I guess I learned a lot during the comprehensive planning. There's one member of the comprehensive plan group that is in that business. Because I used to think of it more as signs and logos, and he kind of taught us that it's way more than that. It's about like what Milford stands for, a feel of a town, what feeling people have, why do people want to come here. So it's not just making a cute sign and putting our river and all those things on it. It's making sure that the whole town reflects that. So making sure our properties, I guess, even like up the corridors, making sure things blend and match, and we don't become a town of like, pole barn type buildings, that we keep with the traditional look of what we want Milford to be. So hopefully we've tried to convince him to like kind of stay on board and help guide us, because I think that we need somebody, an expert in that field. Like I said, I learned a lot. There's a lot of things I did not know about branding, and he taught us a lot during the comprehensive plan sessions that we have. So hopefully he'll stay on board and help guide us in that direction.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, how would you rebrand Milford?
I continue, I agree. I like, Milford has a great hometown feel, and how do you say that? Try and get that uniformly throughout the city. We have, some sections are, everybody likes to go downtown. And Lisa had mentioned before, how let's go up the 28 corridor. So maybe trying to get people up that direction. I like the idea of, signs, way signs. We've talked about that before. I just try and build some more uniformity throughout the city.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer, how would you rebrand Milford?
Yeah, that's not a quick answer. The gentleman that Lisa speaks of, his name was Dino Pell, and that's the man that has the answer. That's the man that's going to encourage us to get there to the proper way to redefine Milford. I think we sometimes spend a lot of time comparing ourselves to Loveland, and we need to stop doing that and appreciate what we have here. I did buy into the fact that what Lisa said with Dino educating us all on how when we choose our brand, it needs to be the driving force that leads us to all other aspects of our logo, our branding, our signage, everything, and our theme. So that's going to take a committee and a bunch of people working on that, and a much longer answer than just a decision I can give you right here.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain, how would you rebrand Milford?
It would be, what is our, I don't have the answer exactly, but what is our mission? What is our vision? As I go around, everyone talks about it's the hometown feel. It's the place that we raise families. It's the place that is within the 275 loop, so it's fast to get downtown, and we can be in a major city with all kinds of arts, and then we have our own arts here. And so how can we really have that cohesive message throughout the city? So when you're getting off at 275 and Route 28, you have a message that meets the same message when you're getting off at 275 and Route 50, or coming in on 50 through the 131 and 50 through Terrace Park. But so we have that cohesive message throughout the entire city. What are we about? And it sounds like that is something that is going to take a lot more dialogue and conversation.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, we have a two-part question here. What are your thoughts about the current relationship between the city and the township? And what actions do you personally intend to take to make the relationship even better?
Okay. So I can speak from my experience in my work. Our work with the township has been greatly improved over the past several years. And I think that's large in part due to our leadership. You know, I think council gets along very well with the trustees and our city managers and the township administrator all seem to get along very well. I think we continue to promote that good relationship and just, you know, continue to work well together. We've come a long way, and we need to continue moving in that direction.
The second part of the question is, what actions do you personally intend to take to make that relationship even better?
That's kind of tough. So it's hard to answer other than continue just working together, continue the team building, I guess. Like I feel like we have a good relationship. I mean, I don't know it personally other than through my work, but yeah, I would just continue to progress the way we are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Brewer?
Yeah, I think we've got a great working relationship with the township. I know that our fire departments have worked together, our police departments have worked together, our police department is working together on our, what's the Citizen Police Academy. I know we combined to do that. We've shared equipment with the township before. They've used our vac hall on certain things. I don't know about our asphalt box, but I know that we've shared equipment on numerous occasions. As far as the trustees, yeah, I think we've all got a great working relationship. I personally would continue what I do now and continue communication, continue dialogue, and continue to collaborate with them on projects. We've worked together on road paving projects and that kind of thing where lines have crossed. We're going to have to work with them on Brooklyn Avenue in order to do the sidewalk project. So I think it's a positive. I think we're good.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I would say collaborating with one another, doing events like we do the State of the Union, which the chamber hosts up at the township, where the city manager can come and everybody gathers together, the school district, everybody gathers together and just casts vision of what's going on in both places. So the more we can collaborate with one another, the better I think bridges can be built. I know a lot of times it seems like if you're in Miami Township, you don't necessarily know that you're in Miami Township, and residents sometimes get confused as far as, do I live in the city of Milford, or do I live in Miami Township? And I think as Miami Township grows, that's just something that's going to come with education, and you'll sometimes see confusion on Facebook as far as different services and things like that. But I think that just comes with education and collaborating with one another and building those bridges together.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yes, I also think that we have a really good relationship. I think partly we share the schools, so we do have a school here in the city and the schools in the townships and the chamber. I think the chamber really helps blend businesses together. They do lots of meetings where they invite, all the chamber members to come, which are Milford businesses and township businesses, and the events they put on, like Street Eats. It's for Milford people and Miami Township. It brings everybody together. I think those events do a good job of that. And like Amy said, we do share equipment and services with the township for events and for projects. The police and the fire, again, they do work together very well. I think, again, encouraging Michael Doss to keep communications open, encouraging, I try to reach out to the trustees and make sure that we have dialogue with the trustees about what's going on and what we can do to help each other, and just continuing that.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer, Are you in favor of council going to work session format? If not, please explain why.
We've had this come up in the past, and my answer was no. I no, because I hate to say this, I don't think this system is broke. I think our committees do a very good job at what they're charged to do. I think sometimes the confusion is that sometimes colleagues don't trust colleagues to do the work in committee. And what happens is, certain projects come through certain committees, and those members work on the committee, make a recommendation to council. It's not our job to make it to every single committee meeting. That's why we break up and do it into groups. I personally don't have any kind of issue with what happens in administrative services or what happens in a committee that I'm not in charge of. It's my job, it is my responsibility to review the notes, and if I have any questions, then it is my job to ask the members of council or Mr. Doss or whomever to clarify my questions before it gets to council. I think that system works. I have 100% faith in my colleagues to do the work, and I have 100% faith that I will go seek the answers to the questions that I have. And I like this format. I don't think I need to be involved in every single aspect of council. I think it can be broken up into jobs and trust that the members that sit on council can do their job. I support that.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I think probably one of the best meetings that I've been to was in September when council had a work session where we actually got to see all of council in dialogue and in conversation working together. So I would really be in favor of maybe not every meeting being work session, but if we had one work session a month where residents can see how decisions are being made, how our government actually operates. As a resident that wants to be informed and wants to know what's going on, I find that it's hard and difficult to, obviously you can't go to every single meeting, but also too, those minutes aren't necessarily sharing how the decisions got made, the hows and the whys. So I think being able to show residents how and why decisions get made is very important to also bring transparency to our system.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Excuse me, this has been a hot topic. I guess sometimes it depends on the topic. I think that, like Kim said, the work session that we had in September was very valuable. I feel like sometimes when there's certain issues going on that maybe I want to know more about, the meetings might be the time I can't go, or I read the minutes, but sometimes an hour conversation has happened and we get a page of minutes. You just can't reflect everyone's thoughts and questions and what the feel was in the room for the issue. So sometimes I think it is valuable for us to discuss it together. Or if I read the minutes and I have a question and I might call Amy to ask the question, well, then somebody else on council might never know that I had that question, and all that dialogue is lost. And so I think sometimes on important issues that we do lose information, or people aren't heard, or not everyone hears the same message. And so I think that the work sessions do help with that aspect, that everyone gets to hear the same message and we're all on the same page. Sometimes the committee meetings are very trivial things that we don't all need to discuss together. But when it's anything of somewhat importance, I think that it needs to be discussed as a full council at a work session.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Okay, so I would like a combination of both. So I like the work session format because, as Kim had said, you get the open dialogue, you see, what everybody's thoughts are, what their opinions are. But on the same token, I like how the council is now where, each council member is not involved in every single committee. And I totally agree, we should trust each other to do our jobs on that committee. And then, bring topics that need to be discussed forward for council to discuss. So, yes, I like work sessions, but I also like the way we have council now, and I would support either one.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Chamberlain, are there utility issues or problems that we should prepare for, water, sewer, electric? Are there issues with street repairs and traffic flow? And how would you solve these issues? Sounds like an infrastructure question.
Well, Wow, that was like a big question. I know that we are in the process of some infrastructure work, both on 28 and on Lila Avenue. And it sounds like that infrastructure work is going to be set up so down the road we can add extra light poles and things like that. So that's very forward thinking. And as Michael had said in his State of the Union, using grant money for that, for that to get a better bang for the taxpayers' dollars. As far as other water or issues like that, I would really like to see some more information on the city Superfund site and what are we doing to further do cleanup in that. So that would be something else that I would like to see more information on.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
We have been doing lots of projects with stormwater and relining pipes over the last year or two. Michael Doss, when he came, did jump on board about the 28 project. So it was supposed to start this summer and it's been delayed, but repaving 28 all the way up to the post office, added decorative lighting and redoing sidewalks and curb cuts and all those things, which through some grant money. I know that our new public works director, Nate, gave us a nice book of, I guess it was a 5-year plan, I think, of all the projects that need to be done over the next 5 years. So he's done a good job of mapping that out and helping us keep a focus on prioritizing those things that need to be done. One thing I think we've talked about the 6 years I've been on council is a new water tower up the top of Wallace Hill. It really needs replaced, and the water department keep telling, every budget session they say it needs to be replaced, but it's a very expensive task. So trying to prioritize that and make sure we have money and planning for that, because it's going to need to happen, I think, sooner rather than later. But I know that having Nate on board and coming up with that plan helps us at budget session. So we can prioritize and know what's coming, what needs to be done, and have them in a prioritized list. That makes a big difference.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
So I'll agree. I can say through working with our different service departments, water department, everything, the crews we have are top notch. And our roads are always in immaculate shape. 28's a little, but we're working on that, and we're making progress. And I think our infrastructure is great, and I totally support them. Like I said, we have a top notch crew here. And,
Thank you.
yeah.
Ms. Brewer?
Yeah, and I'll just briefly just state, Lisa said a lot of things I was going to mention, one of which was the water tower. We do have a 5-year capital improvement plan that lays out all the paving projects that are coming up, that kind of thing. The water tower is in there as well. I know there's some drainage issues over on Mound and Laurel that will need to be addressed, but it is all laid out within that capital improvement plan on a timetable, on a budget. So we'll be moving forward with those. There are no immediate issues that we haven't addressed, and I will give credit where credit is due. Our water sewer department and Nate Clayton have been very proactive in anticipating what we can do so that there isn't a water main break or there isn't road issues. So kudos to them.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, please discuss the prevalence of committee meetings scheduled at times that make it difficult for citizens to participate.
We've had this discussion over the last few years. Some committees meet 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Some committees meet 8 a.m. in the morning. And I think there needs to be at least some variance to that. Some members of the community, 8 o'clock is a very bad time. They're getting kids on the bus, or they're off to work, or those kind of things. Some members of the community, that's a great time. The opposite's true with the afternoon meetings. Some people at 4:30, 5 o'clock are getting dinner and off to soccer practice. So I think we just need to be a little flexible in those, maybe alternate those, so the same committee doesn't always meet at the same time. Maybe it's a rotating basis, 8 o'clock one time, 4:30 the next, to try to meet all the residents who want to attend.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, and I'll again agree. I think a rotating schedule would be best for our committees. Have a meeting once in the morning, the next one maybe do it in the afternoon, another one in the evening. That way you can hit a wider range of residents and get their input. Because I do agree that, there have been committee meetings that I would like to attend, however, because of the time, I'm either getting kids on there or off the bus, so it can be difficult. So I understand the challenge, and yeah, I totally think that a rotating schedule would probably be the best.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Okay, look, I've been chair of public services for 12 years, and I'm telling you, nobody comes to the meetings unless it's something on the agenda that directly affects them. If I'm having a public service committee meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning to discuss whether or not we're going to get OPWC funding for a project that we're doing, I promise you, no one's coming. But who is going to be there are my department heads, and they're there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not asking them to stay after and work overtime when they've got families and responsibilities. I'm asking them to have a meeting on their time when they're already there. When we have meetings that involves the public, as chair of public services, if it's something that's going to directly affect you, I never have a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. I move it to a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock because I know it's going to generate interest, and I know people are going to want to give feedback. The other thing is, with committee meetings, you already have 3 council members sitting on that committee meeting. For another council member to attend that meeting is fine. For them to speak is a violation of the Sunshine Law, because you've got 4 council members in a meeting. So they can't speak. They can sit there and listen, but they can't say anything. So that's the reason I brought up the fact that at some point you got to trust them. I'm perfectly fine with colleagues attending meetings, but I'm not okay with making my department heads have a 7 o'clock meeting to discuss OPWC funding when I know we've done this before and nobody comes. That's just how it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I would like to see us just have more consistent meeting times. So whether we're rotating from morning to evening, that it's just a more consistent, whether it's going to be on the 3rd Thursday or, so it's something that the public can actually depend on. And if the committee's not going to meet for that month, then they just cancel the meeting for that month. But I think having some sort of rhythm that people can rely on, this is when a topic's going to come up in a committee, I think that's just really helpful to get people involved in wanting to come to meetings.
Thank you.
Can I clarify one thing? Am I allowed?
Well,
Am I
the
allowed?
rules were
Okay.
no rebuttal, so
Okay.
I'll have to
That's
say
okay.
no. All right. Mr. Miller, how can the city better serve its residents living in poverty?
Okay. So we do have a few residents that are living in poverty, and I think some current programs that are going on are benefiting them. I know the police department has just taken part in a program called PATH to help our homeless, and I know that just started maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and I think that's great, because I don't think a lot of residents realize how many homeless people we do have living here in Milford. And then as far as, the residents that are living in poverty, again, our service, our commitment to the community through council, through the fire department, through the police department, we do a lot of outreaching, and even the police, I know for a fact, the police department, police officers themselves will help individuals, and a lot of times taking money out of their own pockets. So that's one of the best things about Milford is, we genuinely care for each other, regardless of what your background is or your social status. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Yeah, I'll just add on top of what Miles already said with the police department, we do have, they do a Fill the Cruiser. They just did that a couple weeks ago at Walmart. We have Shop with a Hero that the fire department does in collaboration with the police department. We have a very healthy St. Vincent de Paul organization, and I know Lisa, I'm sure, will elaborate on that, as well as some of the churches have outreach programs that you can go to. The church on 131, Church of Christ, I know has a very nice outreach program. So there are resources. It's distressing when we think about how many people are living in poverty. It really is. I know the schools work with kids on reduced meal programs. I know that I personally have donated to buy a child's lunch for a whole year. So there are programs out there. It's just getting the information to those people.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
We do have a problem, and I would like to see partnering with and collaborating with services, which we do a lot. It was really great to see, the city having a picnic up at Oakwood and engaging with the residents and the kids. I think sidewalks is going to make a huge difference. A lot of times people in poverty do not have transportation, so they're not going to be able to get to the grocery store safely and use a lot of the services that would be walkable. But also allowing, getting the information out there to not only the people that are living in poverty, what services are available, but also for the residents and for city workers, for everybody to know what are the different services that are available. How can we plug people into the services and get them the help that is needed? So I think just collaborating and partnering and having information available for both staff and city and residents, so we can all work together.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yes, as Amy said, like I am on the St. Vincent de Paul at Milford Church, and I know probably we meet every Monday, and probably 10 to 15 families every Monday we discuss whether it's food, rent, they need gas cards to get to doctor's appointments, they need their Duke bill paid, all those kinds of things. And I think we have lots of pockets in Milford where people are doing those things, but I think coming together we could do even more. So I know other local churches are doing things. The police, this past week, we had a family living in a car. The police called us because they knew we had some services we could provide. So I think that kind of working together and teamwork can help. I know we work with Milford Miami Ministries, which is kind of in the township, but it's a collection of about 20 churches that go together. So a lot of times, like, we'll refer families from Milford to them for assistance. I worked with a family this summer that was living in a tent down on the river, and there were multiple of those. I think some people don't realize that we do have homeless, we do have poverty in our area. But I think a lot of people are doing a lot of good things, but I think if we came together, that we could do even more.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer, the city recently mailed out a survey. Many residents did not receive the survey because it was sent out in a water bill. How would you make sure that any future surveys reach all the citizens?
I'm happy to answer that question. Is I first on that one? I don't think I'm first.
Mr. Miller, you were first the last time.
Oh, okay. So, read it one more time for me.
Sure. The city recently mailed out a survey. Many residents did not receive the survey because it was sent out in a water bill. How would you make sure that any future surveys reach all the citizens?
So we did a mailing and it didn't reach everybody because they didn't get it in their bill. We're just gonna have to add other avenues. We're gonna have to have it online. We're gonna have to have it on social media. We can publicize it in, if we had an electric message board, I guess we could start doing that. We need people to respond to a survey. Those are tough because even sometimes when you mail out surveys, not everybody always answers it either. But and the water bill, that is one of the easiest way to get there because we're not, of course, incurring extra costs on the mailing. But definitely, we probably need to do a better job of a mass mailing outside of that water bill.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I think probably having more communication about the survey. I was here the day that people were paying their water bill and happened to talk to 4 different residents and said, "So, did you turn in your survey?" And all 4 of them were like, "What survey? What are you talking about?" So I think people, they get their water bill and they open it up and they just pay their water bill. And so many of us pay our water bills online. I was really hoping that the survey would have been online. It would have been easier to access, and you're paying your water bill and you're just doing the survey all at the same time. So I think just communicating, and the survey was really important. So to just have it in a separate mailer, it might have cost a little bit more, but I think we probably would have had better results if we would have maybe gone about it in a more professional way, set aside something that this is a really important thing. It's not just in your water bill.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Similar comments, the water bill, even with the newsletter and the water bill, a lot of people don't even read the newsletter and the water bill, let alone a survey. I know over the years we've talked about like park surveys and things and about hiring a company to do that, but that does get very expensive. So I know we've tried to do it on our own to avoid those costs. But we need and want people to respond. It might have to be like at school when I have to bribe the kids to bring things into school. Maybe we give a prize to some random people who fill out their survey. That might entice them to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I like the idea of having a cupcake for a survey. Yeah, Amy kind of hit on it. Like, we have, the water bill we reach a lot of people with, but maybe we can take advantage of social media, Facebook, online surveys. So it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I think the water bill is a nice form of communication for some things, but if it's something that's super, as important as the survey was, then maybe that should be mailed out separately, or communicated differently.
Thank you. Excuse me. Ms. Chamberlain, please discuss the Public Works Director position and whether it has paid for itself through any increased revenue or lowered costs. I can repeat that when I can talk. Terrible thing for a moderator, right? Please discuss the Public Works Director position and whether it has paid for itself through increased revenue or lowered costs.
I can explain the Public Works position in the fact that it's supposed to be helping us do more things in-house and instead of hiring from outside. As far as knowing, has it helped budget or cost, that I don't know. And so I will have to, find out more information and defer to those that are already on council to answer that question.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
I've been wanting to ask the same question. I guess I was kind of waiting for budget session, because when Michael Doss kind of brought this idea to us, that was the goal, that bringing this person in and consolidating some services and keeping things in-house would save us a lot of money. So I guess it's just, I'm trying to think when he started, was it like
Yeah, he's not even been-
January?
he's not been here a year
Yeah, it
yet.
hasn't quite been a year. So I was thinking that budget session would be a good time to ask, like, so it's been a year, have we saved money? Because again, that's the goal, and if it's costing us more money, that's not a good thing. I love Nate, and he's done a lot of wonderful things, like that 5-year plan he gave us. But we have to make sure too that we're being wise and that the position is a cost savings position and not a costing us money. So I guess that'll be coming up soon here as he hits his year mark. How much money have we saved?
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
So yeah, I would agree. I like the idea of having a public works director, but that has to, it has to benefit, we have to not be losing money in the situation. So I like the idea of having one person that we can go to ask for, whatever issue we need him to take care of, and then he can delegate those tasks as needed. So similar to having, department heads and all that. So yeah, it would have to be looked at later.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
I would agree that it's too early to tell, and I'm not even sure that that after 1 year, we'll be able to truly appreciate the value of Nate. Not only has he stepped in a position that was newly created, he's done a remarkable job of it. He cuts out a lot of the work that was currently being handled by our city manager that can now be handled by Nate, and he can work directly with our department heads and get jobs done and do some engineering skills. So I am confident that the decision was a good one. It has benefited the structure of the employees, and they all seem to work very well together. So I'm very pleased with what's happening so far with Public Works.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, if a committee makes a decision and the committee gives its notes to council to review before council meetings, how are residents able to give input?
So the committee, I guess that's part of the problem with the committee meetings and not doing work sessions. I know sometimes because a committee meets, we get meetings, we review those before council, but those are not approved and put online, like on our website, until after the meeting is over. So that is a problem because some residents then don't find out about things from the minutes until after the meeting has happened, because they might not catch it on the agenda. But then after the meeting, a week later, they go and they read minutes online and they realize that something happened or was discussed and they didn't know about it ahead of time. So that is hard. I think sometimes, again, that's where the work session does help, because we're discussing it at a meeting and they can either watch on TV, because our committee meetings are not broadcast on TV. So work sessions are on TV and more residents can watch and get information. It's hard. That's hard.
Mr. Miller?
So yeah, I agree. I'm a fan of communication, so I want residents to be well informed about what's being discussed not just in council, but as well in committee meetings. You know, having committee meetings at different times hopefully can bring residents in to see what's being discussed, but you know, I think there's a lot to look at there. You know, possibly posting or, you know, publicizing the minutes from committee meetings before council, you know, so, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Okay, so if an individual misses a committee meeting and they want to know what happened in that, all they have to do is call City Hall. The minute those minutes are generated and approved, they're available. You don't have to wait for the council meeting. The minute that they're generated and approved by the chair, they're available for public requests. So you could have it before the council meeting. If you don't have it before the council meeting, you can always come to the council meeting. And during that time, those minutes are read, and during public comments, you can ask your question. So there's definitely, if you've missed something, all you have to do is call City Hall. They will get you the minutes.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I think that's really great information. So I think one of my things is to really educate our citizens. How do we get the information? What information is available, and how do we go about getting that information? I mean, I had no idea. I just learned something. Because there is a spot on our website for the agenda and for the minutes, but individual committee minutes aren't put on our website. And so it is kind of difficult if you knew a topic was going to be discussed, but you didn't want to wait just until the council meeting because you wanted to collect your thoughts and have a educated opinion. So I think really educating our citizens on, you know, how to send correspondence to city council, what kind of information is available. That's how we engage our residents.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, we have 2 civic historic nonprofit organizations in the city. They receive no public monies, but do enrich community life. How would you envision integrating the library and Promont into city awareness and attention?
Okay. So, you know, I think our city does, we hold a lot of events. I think, you know, if we could maybe have some events at those locations and maybe better publicize those events, that would be great. Yeah, but again, that's gonna be something that I'm not really familiar with, and I would have to learn more about, so.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
What's the first part of that question again? How do we what?
The first part was, we have 2 civic historic nonprofit organizations in the city. They receive no public monies, but do enrich community life. How would you envision integrating the library and Promont into city awareness and attention?
Okay, so the city of Milford does support Promont by our membership dues every year. So we are a big promoter of Promont already. I don't believe the library requests any, Lisa, maybe I'll help you out.
I don't know that they've ever requested money.
I don't think they've ever requested any money. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't know how they advertise the library down there. I've not seen much publicity coming out from them. So if that's an issue for them, then that's definitely a conversation I think we should have, and certainly we could help assist them in getting some publication for them. Promont does an excellent job with their website and their events, their art program, art street festival that they just did. That's huge. There's, I don't know how many vendors there are with their different kinds of wares, and their membership I think is growing. I think last I heard Nancy Meyer was in charge of that, and membership had been at an all-time high. So I think a conversation probably needs to be had with the library. I would agree.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I have to applaud Promont. They have done an incredible job with events and really thinking outside of the box, coming up with different events, and also moving downtown, I think, has been a big win for them, able to expand and really deliver an excellent event, not just for our city, but regionally, and drawing people from all over. So I agree, just more partnering, more visibility. Also, we are so rich with history. So maybe that's, you know, like Promont, you can go and find out your genealogy and things like that. I love talking to the residents and learning about the history of the different neighborhoods. That's been very exciting. So maybe there are ways that we can promote more history, more events that are happening at Promont. The library, you know, we're getting a new library out in Miami Township. It's moved farther out of the city, and it's not going to be called the Milford Miami Township Library anymore. It's just Miami Township Library. Is there a way that maybe we could partner with the Claremont County Public Library System and with the library to maybe offer story times or things like that to draw in residents to use the library, which is a really great space, but I think a lot of people don't know that it's there and what it's about. But it also, you can use that space to conduct meetings, and it's a really great space, so.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yeah, I would have to agree with, I think, Kim and everyone else. The library, I think, is a little hidden gem that a lot of people don't even know about. I think some of the first times I was in there was during like the Christmas walks, and they would always have people in during the Christmas walk, and that's how I first entered it and learned about it. I think definitely the city can continue to try to promote those events for the Promont and library on their Facebook and websites and all those things. The Promont their events have grown. I've loved the last two Julys going to their, I'm trying to think what it's called. It's not called Taste of Milford. It's Taste of History, like Thirsty for History. Right, yes.
Thirsty for History.
Yes, that has been a wonderful event the last 2 years. Has beer involved. That's been a wonderful event the last 2 years. They have a mystery dinner coming up that looks amazing. I mean, they have just been doing all kinds of events, and I try to share those. I think if they get on the city Facebook page and everyone shares them, I think the word can get out, and we can just keep working together.
Thank you. All right. Amy, I think we're going to start with you.
Okay.
So, Milford Main property has been somewhat of a hot topic the past few years. What is your vision for Milford Main, and how do we pay for it?
Well, my personal vision wasn't what the public wanted. I personally thought some type of mixed use would be better suited there. But the public clearly stated they didn't want any kind of mixed use, that they wanted it to remain a park. So we are currently exploring ideas with different engineers on what can happen. We've got a healthy park fund as of right now, but depending on what we do, we'll determine whether or not we could actually end up needing a park levy. We have a lot of parks and churches in the city of Milford. We have 9 parks. The Claretoma Village has 2 right there within walking distance. They've got Claretoma and they've got Garfield. So we are very park saturated. Depending on what we do at Maine, depending on the maintenance involved, the sustainability involved, it could generate a conversation about a park levy. It all depends on what we get from the engineers and what the public is willing to support.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
Can you read the question again?
Sure. The hot topic, Milford Main property. What is your vision for Milford Main, and how do you pay for it?
I think anytime a city's going to buy property and not develop it, it's going to cost the city money. And I was really hoping that we would be able to have some sort of green space, but also maybe keep it residential by, building some sort of small townhomes, some down at the back end. But the public has spoken, and city council has decided that the green space is the way to go. But then again, that is going to cost the citizens and the residents and taxpayers dollars. And I don't know what that looks like. It depends on what we're going to develop it for. And how is it going to be used? Is there a way that we can use it to generate funds? And we're just going to have to really think the whole process through.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yes, I think I kind of agree with Kim and maybe Amy. I didn't envision it as all green space either. Like I did not want the monstrous building that was going to be there. I also kind of envisioned maybe like a dozen townhomes or something on the back part of the property. So leaving it green space is more of a challenge. How do you fill it? How do you pay for it? I think we definitely need to focus maybe on the point first, because that is kind of like the focal part of it. And it needs some definite TLC. At 5 Points intersection, everyone sits at that light and sees that point. whether it's, some kind of a statue, monument, gazebo, something up there to look attractive. I think we need parking. If it's going to be a park, we need to focus on where is the parking area going to be. I think we need to keep basketball courts there. There are kids playing basketball there all the time. I think paying for it could come from possibly some grants. We've used grants at Memorial Park and Riverside Park, and that's always an option. I think it's going to have to be put into the budget probably in phases. So we're doing like a piece at a time. I'm very interested to see what the architect has to say, honestly, also to see what ideas, and then we can pick and choose from those ideas and see what can we afford down the road. But I think it's not going to be an all at once kind of thing.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I agree. I originally, when I heard about developing it, I think I was kind of with Amy that, I like the idea of having a mixed use area. But we want to go green space, and let's go green space. Then it becomes a budgeting issue, and we have other parks that we need to maintain that people use and enjoy. So we don't want to take away from those. So it's not gonna. We can't develop Milford, Maine all at once. It has to be set out like Lisa said in phases, and again the majority of that is going to be a budgeting issue. So.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain, in order to understand the priorities and concerns of all Milford residents and business, would you be in favor or not of the city funding a scientific survey for a few $1,000s in order to gain reliable information? If yes, why, and if not, why?
Yes, I think like I stated before, I think more could have been done to make sure that it was a professional survey that really met a greater amount of people and that we had a better response. I think out of the amount of residents that we have in households, to receive just about 200 surveys isn't a great showing. So yes, I would be in favor of.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yes, I hate to spend the money, but yes, I think sometimes we need to. Sometimes there's even comments on council, well, only 20 people responded, you're only this many people responded. And you feel like, well, those are the people, that cared enough to send it in, but there are a lot more residents out there. So I think we do need to try to reach them. And depending on the topic of what we're asking in the survey, it might be something that we would have to actually pay for services for someone to help us with.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Likewise, it would depend on the survey. Obviously, an important survey like what went out, yes, I would be okay with spending that money. I want the resident input. I want input from businesses. That's the only way we can make things better. I think if we improve our communication with the residents, and they start to feel like their opinion is a little bit more valued, or they're being heard, I think we might see a better response from surveys. So I think there's work to do, but yeah.
Ms. Brewer?
So yeah, I would support that. Obviously, anything you can do to engage the public would be worth it. I wish it came with a guarantee, because the problem is, to Lisa's point, you spend the money on it and you still may only get 30-40% of the return back. Getting people to fill out that survey is sometimes more difficult than not. If it was a mailing survey and you wanted it back, you'd have to include a stamp on it, because it just wouldn't happen any other way. So you've got the cost of the mailing and the stamp to get it back to you. So I would like a guarantee that we'd have at least more than half percentage turnout, but sure, my answer is yes.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, what is your view of the role of a council person?
Well, the council person. I think they need to be a good listener. I think they need to try to make sure that they're hearing the voices of the residents and trying to relay those back to council. I think also a major role is making sure that we have a good leader. I think that we put a lot of time into hiring Michael Doss, and I think that we have to put trust in him that he's going to run the city efficiently and effectively. And it's our job to make sure he's doing that, but I think it's his job to do that. But I think definitely that communication with the public and for us to relay the information to him so he can make good decisions for the city are important.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I agree. We need to work well with our city manager, and I think we do. We need to understand what his vision is and stay in line with that, and work in cooperation with him. And then as far as the residents, it would be my job to be an advocate for the residents, express what their interests are, what their opinions are, and any questions or issues that they may have.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
So I would hope after 12 years, I've figured out what a good council member is. I think a good council member needs to be present, needs to be accessible, needs to be able to not only listen, but to be able to execute on a few things. I also think you need integrity to be on this board and to be able to stand on your laurels when you're passionate about something and nobody else is. I think it's okay when you don't have a 7-0 vote every single time. I think it's totally fine that there's differences of opinion on this council and that sometimes it might be a 4-3 split, and at the end of the day, you take it for what it is and you move on. There are 7 people up here with 7 different personalities, and that in and of itself can be a challenge alone. But from a public standpoint, accessibility, open for ideas, being present and being seen. And you got to show up. You got to represent your community, whether it's a ribbon cutting or an event or a chamber event. I attend a lot of events within the Claremont County Chamber because I think it's very important that not only am I visible to the residents of the community, I'm visible to the members of the county and my colleagues on a countywide level. So I think it's all encompassing in that way.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain?
I think being a good listener and being dependable and a public servant, and that means serving the needs of our citizens and relying on staff. We have an amazing staff that is excellent at the jobs that they do, and working together, collaborating with council, working together, and listening to staff's recommendations. I think that it makes a good council person. And now I lost my train of thought. Forget where I went. Anyways, woo! There's lots of squirrels. But also, and as Amy pointed out, but being a decision maker. So, being willing to wrestle around ideas, that we're all not going to come up with the same ideas, but that we like to grapple. And that grappling is good because then good things rise from them. And really being able to work with one another, even if we don't have the same idea, but we might even have different opinions, but working together to make the best decision for what's going to work for our city.
Thank you. We are drawing to the end of this time. It's gone by really quickly, and I have to tell you that there are still questions, but I've done the very best job we could in screening and trying to put together common themes and trying to get the most comprehensive set of questions to you. So to the audience, thank you for your generous participation. There are 2 seats that are available this year, right? And there are 4 of you running. Three. I'm sorry. 3. Okay. I'm sorry. Ooh, I just caused Miles there to have a heart attack. 3 seats, 4 contenders. So, and at this time, it is your opportunity to ask for the vote. So I'm going to start with Mr. Miller, not to make you sweat anymore or cause you to.
The one thing I didn't want was to go first on closing.
So it's your time now.
All right. Again, thank you to everybody that has put this event together. I think it's been great. Hopefully we answered a majority of everybody's questions. I know there were some left over, but I hope you got to learn a lot about me and who I am and where I stand on our current issues. Again, my biggest thing is I just want to be an advocate for our residents. I want to speak for what we believe and what we want, and I want to be a voice for our opinions, and I want to share the issues with you. And again, I hope I can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Brewer.
Again, I would just like to thank the League and the Chamber for hosting. I also want to thank my friends and family who have come out tonight to support me. I want to thank my terrific husband for his unconditional love, patience, and support. It has been my honor to serve the citizens of the city of Milford as their vice mayor. Together we have accomplished a lot. We have also improved our quality of life by investing in public services and building a unique partnership with businesses and the community. I am proud of all the work we have accomplished over the past few years, but there is still work to be done. I will work to make sure everyone in our community has a chance to offer ideas and suggestions for the future of Milford. Together, we can continue our positive progress, which is why I am asking the citizens of Milford to cast your vote to re-elect me as your council member. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Ms. Chamberlain.
In closing, I would like to thank everyone again for coming, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting, and the panel and the audience for great questions, dialogue, and conversation. If I am elected to City Council, I hope to work alongside fellow council members, listening to the needs of our citizens, listening to the expertise of our city staff, and make decisions to the best of my ability to continue the legacy of Milford, being a great place to live, work, and visit. I hope to engage and encourage citizen involvement. I am passionate about local business and look forward to increased economic development. Having safe, accessible spaces throughout Milford is important to me. I want to build community together, and I am asking for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Evans.
Again, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all your great questions, and thanks to the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for putting this a great event on. I want to say that I have loved serving the city for the past 6 years, and I will always stand up for Milford. I want to make your voice heard, and I'm not bringing a personal agenda to council. Jamie Mills, our police chief, has a coin that he gives out to his officers, and they share them with residents sometimes. It says, "Am I doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons?" And I try to make sure that that always holds true. I feel the past 6 years have been very successful, and I want to continue making Milford the best hometown. And I would appreciate your support on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience. That concludes our forum this evening. Have a good evening and a safe trip home.
We don't get a picture up here together?